The incoming Trump administration is set to shake up the federal workforce with a hiring freeze and major telework changes. What could this mean for federal employees in the coming days ahead? Stay tuned for the critical information you need to know. Hi, I'm Ian Smith with fedsmith.com. If you're not familiar with us, we're an online news service dedicated to helping current and former federal employees stay up to date with information that can directly impact them. If you are familiar with us, welcome back and thanks for joining us today. We've had a lot of new subscribers to the channel in the last several days, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you so much for subscribing. What we wanted to talk to you about today, though, is that reports have surfaced recently that President-elect Trump is planning to issue a number of executive orders on his first day in office, and some of these could directly impact federal employees, specifically with respect to a federal hiring freeze and telework changes. In this video, FedSmith author and former Labor Relations Officer Ralph Smith breaks down what these policy shifts could mean for federal employees. And so with that, here's Ralph to tell you about it.
The first thing we're going to talk about today is the hiring freeze. This is fairly predictable. In 2017, in the Trump first term, he issued an executive order imposing a hiring freeze on the government. The second executive order, that is the one that coming out in a hiring freeze in his second term, will probably be very much like the first. It applied to most of government. And when I say most of government, it didn't apply to military personnel. But it did have an impact because it reduced the size of the workforce through attrition. New people couldn't be hired. This can have an effect on you because if you're in an office where you're overworked, you're trying to keep up, a new person was going to be coming in soon. Now that person may not be coming in for some time. Not much you can do about it. The executive order says you can't hire a government contractor to fill the position. You just can't do the work if that's the case. So it's going to affect all of government. The purpose is to reduce the size of government, reduce the scope of the work that the government does. The hiring freeze is just the first step in that process. That'll probably go into effect very quickly. In the last time an executive order on this topic was issued, it directed the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, and the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, to come up with a plan involving reducing the size of the federal workforce. That will probably come about this time as well. Once that order is out, we have more information about what's in it. We'll do another article, do a video on it to let you know what it is and how it's going to affect you. The second item that affects a lot of people, and it's gotten a lot of publicity, is a return to the office for in-person work, telework for short. The president has said that what he wants to do is to require all federal employees to go back to work in an office. That apparently is going to happen, at least to some extent. Now, the reason I say to some extent, the unions, as we reported earlier, have in some agencies negotiated provisions that would hold the existing telework provisions in effect until after the Trump administration is over. We don't know what will happen with that. The unions have said they're going to fight it. Presumably they're going to go into court. Maybe they'll go to the Federal Labor Relations Authority. But there are some things the administration can do. For example, the bargaining unit is a group of people within an agency represented by a union. If you're not in the bargaining unit, the contract doesn't apply to you. So, for example, if you're a supervisor, if you're a manager, you're automatically excluded from the bargaining unit. So the president can order any supervisors, any managers to go back to work in their office location. The union can't file a grievance on your behalf because they don't represent you. Once the supervisors and managers go back to work, there's going to be more pressure probably put on employees who are working at home to go back to work as well. There's a concept in federal personnel, human resources, that says basically work now, grieve later. So here's a piece of advice. If you're given a direct order and you don't to go back to work in an office and you don't want to and you refuse that order, you can be fired for not following the direct order. Whether you're right or whether you're wrong doesn't make any difference. You can be fired for not following that order. You don't want to put yourself in that position. You can, if you go back to work and you think that's improper, maybe it's violated the collective bargaining agreement in your agency, you can file a grievance. The grievance would be handled underneath the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, and you may win, you may be able to continue telework. A president has the right to order federal employees, or OPM can issue a regulation, or OMB can issue a regulation directing a change in working conditions. However, the president has to follow the Constitution, has to follow existing laws. The Civil Service Reform Act of 1978 gives unions the right to negotiate conditions of employment. Now, the Trump administration is making the point that some of the political appointees in these agencies are working with unions to try and stymie the Trump administration from requiring people to go back to work in an office. They're probably right. I suspect that is happening. It doesn't really make a lot of difference if there's a contract that's now in effect and it addresses telework, then probably those provisions are going to remain in effect. There are, however, some things an agency can do, and my guess is they will do, to try to get more people back to work. For example, they're going to set up provisions for monitoring performance. In other words, are you really working at home? Are you producing what you're supposed to be producing? Memos, phone calls, whatever that is. And if you're not producing, don't meet those performance requirements, you can be fired for not performing your duties. Some people have written in and they said, I have a disability and I work at home as an accommodation for my disability. That gives you another argument that most people don't have, and that may be successful. However, the agency can review the requirements of the work, and they could say, for example, you can't perform your duties in your home. You have to be in an office. If that happens and you're directed to go back to work, then you may lose your ability to work at home under the existing provisions. These are just some of the things that are likely to happen. We'll have to wait and see. There are definitely going to be a lot of changes coming very soon. Part of the reason we're doing these videos now is to try to give you a quick overview of what these changes are, how they may affect you. People leave comments, we look at the comments. The difference in the articles we write for the FedSmith newsletters is the articles tend to be longer, contain more specifics. The purpose of the videos is to keep it short, to give you some idea of what's happening that you may find useful in your federal job, and we hope we're meeting that mission. Thank you very much for watching, and good luck.